few moments about the people around the birth story of Jesus Christ. Now, most of us have heard the carols, and we probably were exposed to some kind of aspect of the reflection of the birth of Jesus Christ. Of course, a lot of it has been, of course, changed and rearranged, and things added to that actually weren't really there. But nevertheless, I still think it's an interesting thing to talk about in terms of this particular subject. So there are three groups of people I'd like to talk to you about regarding the things surrounding the birth of Jesus Christ. Of course, we know that in actual fact he was probably born towards more April, but nevertheless, be that as it may, this is the time we celebrate. So let's talk about, first of all, the wise men. Out of the three groups I'd like to talk about, the wise men. And these were just as their name describes, they were the intellectuals of the day, of their land, and they came from Persia, which is present-day Iran, Iraq, from that region. That's where they originated from. And these wise men were the ones who people looked to, and in fact foreign governments actually looked towards them for influence, for needed counsel. They were quite amazing with their wisdom, insight, their ability to read the signs, and so people would really rely on these people, and so they were respected amongst their peers, and of course amongst the different nations, so much so that Herod welcomes them when they comes, and he also inquires about where is the baby Jesus, that I also might go and worship him. So they had clout within those regions, those Middle Eastern regions of the day. They were successful, of course, wealthy, and so these wise men traveled to Jerusalem. And of course, there weren't three. We have carols that talk about the three wise men, and often depicted in pictures. But really, it would have been an entire caravan of a lot of people traveling that kind of distance and through the deserts. They would have had quite an entourage with them, and they would have attracted attention as they're passing through the different regions and through the different lands. People would have been aware of them, of course. And so these wise men are carrying gifts. Somehow, somewhere, they have read a sign in the heavens that one is born that is like no other. A king is born. And so they come to Bethlehem seeking this one that is born. But the interesting thing about this is that they bring these gifts and they're willing to bow down to this baby Jesus, this infant in a manger, in a place where there wasn't room for them in the inn, so some sort of temporal situation is quickly provided because Mary is in labor, and so quick plans are made, and eventually, of course, these wise men show up. And I think it's important for us to see these wise men and the fact that the proper place for our gifts. Maybe in your life you were given a lot of wisdom, perhaps talents, abilities that are amazing and that people have been blessed with, quite frankly. Maybe musically, or some artistry that you're good at, or whatever the case might be, maybe just sheer brain power. We could all do with that. So whatever your particular case is, these wise men give an example to us where they bow at the feet of Jesus Christ and they offer their gifts. And it's symbolic for you and I to take what we have been blessed with, what we have been given in life. And perhaps that particular gifting has opened opportunities and doors for us that normally would not have been opened. And we're to realize that these gifts are from God. They're a gift from God. And therefore God should be honored with those gifts. Just as Matthew McConaughey, when he received his Oscar, said, God is the one who blessed me with this gift. In essence, that's what he was saying as he received his Oscar and gave his speech. And so I think that's the right way. We need to, like the wise men that came to Jesus, thank the Lord for what we have received. Perhaps an opportunity to be further educated. On and on. I could give all the different lists of the things. Maybe the grandchildren you have and the family you have, whatever your particular thing, the business you own. I think it's important to return thanks to the one who gave it to us in the first place, the ability to do what we have done. And so when our abilities are laid at the feet of Jesus, just like these wise men, they are at his disposal. To use however he wants to. And normally, the things that we are blessed with really are to help our fellow man, our fellow family, neighbors, friends. We are blessed to give to others. And in so doing, we're honoring God. We're not saying this is for me and only me, and I'm going to get prosperous out of this, and I don't care what it costs. But rather we return thanks and we use it to the glory of God, and we worship God with what we have. We take that gift and we actually offer it back to him in worship, and he receives the praise and the glory just like the wise men. So challenge to you and I, what are you doing with the gifts he's given you, the talents he's given you, the influence he's given you, maybe the resources that others don't have? What are you doing with that gift? Come and worship Jesus during this time with those gifts. Thank him for it. Thank God for it, and be open with that as well. So it's an act of worship when we do that. And of course, we are to worship the Lord just like the wise men as they did during this time, during this Christmas time. Let's worship God with what we have. Then the second group of folk, number 2, is the opposite end of the scale. And this is the shepherds. Now, the shepherds were the lowest of the low class in that time, in that particular culture. They were, in fact, as shepherds, they were so deemed untrustworthy by society in general that shepherds could not even serve as a witness in court. Can you imagine? They were so mistrusted. They were the mavericks of society. They drifted from region to region as they took their sheep. Normally they were hired, and they would take these sheep and make sure that they were looked after, and they would go around in the various regions and various areas. And normally if something was missing, let's say in a local village, something that you had lying out in the yard or whatever the case might be, and it was missing, or stolen, usually in a local village they would ask around, are there any shepherds in the area? Because 9 times out of 10 it could have been pinched by one of those shepherds coming through the different regions as they took the flocks around to the different fields. And so the angels appear to these shepherds. Isn't that amazing? The angels appear and they say, glory to God in the highest, peace and goodwill to all men. And they announce to these shepherds in the field with their sheep that the Christ has been born, that the King has been born, Emmanuel amongst us and with us. And they sing this wonderful thing, and they're frightened as crazy. They go running off to the village to find out who it is in this Bethlehem region that they're having their sheep in, and they find eventually Jesus Christ. So my question is that you would think that the angels or even God would choose someone more trustworthy. How about the priests? What about those that have sort of standing in society? What about the local village family that's in good standing with the elders of the village? Upright family, good name, good middle class. That's the kind of folk we want to make sure get the message. I would have thought God would have done it that way. Thank goodness God doesn't listen to people like me when it comes to these kinds of areas, because I would have been reticent to reveal such important information. I mean, the Magi have arrived from Iran and Iraq, from the Persian Empire. I mean, people are gathering around. You would want to have some kind of a special person there. But God chooses these shepherds. And so we have to see that sometimes our decisions and the way we think logically, God isn't reliant upon our logic. He does what he does his way, and he does it best. That's why he doesn't sometimes include us in making decisions when it comes to people, because we have filters. I'm sure any average Joe living in that village would have said, shepherds? No ways. No, not a chance. But God chooses these shepherds. And he trumps our logic when it comes to these kinds of areas. So from the very beginning, we know Jesus said that he came for those that were lost. And God announces in his mercy to these shepherds, the lowest of the low. So you've got two extremes. You've got the Magi, highly intelligent, well-educated in the arts and the crafts of the Persian Empire. They looked up to, governments rely on them for advice. These are heavy hitters that we're talking about. And then on the other end of the scale, you got these poor shepherds that are, quite frankly, sort of the outcasts of society, and went around a real rough bunch. Quite frankly, if you want to know what the real reason is, they were just a real rough bunch to be around. And so God chooses these extremes. But these shepherds come too to worship at the feet of Jesus. And so we have to see that you have these extremes that we're talking about, the great and the mighty and the influential, all the way through down to, well, quite frankly, the basic bottom line kind of person. God is interested in every single one of them. And he chooses to reveal himself to every kind of individual, whether those that have everything together or those that have nothing together. God is interested in every single one. You and I fit somewhere in the middle of all these extremes. The bottom line being that God desires to make contact with the whosoever will, the you and me. Whether we have much or nothing, the bottom line is God is interested in us. And he wants to reveal his Son, Jesus Christ, to all of us. And that's why I think it's so significant that these extremes are revealed in the people surrounding the birth of Jesus Christ. There are many others. I'm just referring to these ones in particular. So don't think that you're left out. Don't think that you're either too smart, you don't need God, or I'm just a nothing, a nobody, God wouldn't be interested. Both of you are wrong. Because in the end, God is interested in every single person. He loves every single person, and he wants to reveal himself to every single person. That's you and I in this Christmas season. So like the shepherds or the Magi, worship the Lord with who you are. Be authentic with that. Be thankful. Be grateful. And offer to God your life and who you are to him during this time. The final person that I would like to talk about to you this morning is Herod. Herod plays a significant role in this and is recorded in the book of Luke. We read all the story of what Herod gets up to. And there were several Herods during the time of Jesus, but this particular Herod in the Christmas story, he was another type of leader. He was deceptive, he was cruel, he was self-seeking. In fact, his power was seen for some reason. He's a king, realize this, of course, with the backing of the Roman Empire. And you find that for some reason, this baby child, Jesus, who's born, is a total threat to him. Can you imagine? And it's such a threat to him that he becomes totally obsessed, consumed with his own authority and making sure he doesn't lose power and control, and he does whatever it will take to eliminate any kind of threat to his authority, his power, his self-seeking, if you would. And so Herod's absolute addiction to this worldly power, this wanting more, this desire to control everything, to have power over people, to dominate people, to the extent drives him to do a shocking, terrible thing. He becomes a mass murderer. He sends in the troops to kill every child 2 years and under. Fortunately, Joseph and Mary are warned in a dream and they flee to Egypt. But the point I want to make out of this is that That I know Herod is an extreme case, and you probably think, well, I don't know anyone like that. But it's a lesson for us to remember that sometimes the desire to get someplace, to become something, to attain to levels, and on the way up we trample everyone underneath us. The desire for self-glorification, gratification, can lead us to sin in ways we did not think we were capable of committing. And so the challenge to you and I is if we have what we have, are we abusing, trampling, destroying people in the process of trying to get more, achieve more, be more? The amount of dollars I have is not enough. I've got to have more. And once you've got that more, guess what? You're going to want more on top of that. And so more is never enough. And in the process of us going through our lives, just like Herod, we can become threatened by those around us. And we trample, and that's not the message of Christmas. That's so opposite to what God's heart is for people when He sent His only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, the Bible tells us, to give His life for the world. God so loved the world that He gives His only begotten Son, that anyone, the Magi, the uppers, the shepherds, the lowers, and everyone in between, you and me, He gives everyone the opportunity to call upon the name of the Lord, and they shall be saved. In other words, you believe in your heart and you say, yes, I believe Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. The Bible tells us you've accepted the gift of God to humanity, His gift to us. What can we give in return? It's Christmas. We love to give gifts out to our family and children and grandchildren, and it's the time for all of this kind of thing. And I'd like to perhaps just challenge you and say, how about, instead of just giving gifts to everyone, how about giving God a gift? You see, we have this choice, a free choice. We're not forced to, we're not made to. We simply have the choice, the free choice to say, God, you've given me Jesus Christ, and I'm giving you my life. I'm saying, God, here I am. Here's my gift to you, my heart, my life. And I want to follow you. And would you come into my life and lead and guide me in all the ways that I need to go? And so this is the Christmas message of whether we are folk of great resources or of very little, or even struggling with the whole power kind of thing that we see on social media today. Step back, take a deep breath. Even in today's politics and all the uproar that goes on, in the end, God is our only guarantee for lasting peace, contentment, security. All of that comes from God, even as the angels sang, glory to God in the highest, peace and goodwill. That's the message of Christmas. Now, the question I have to ask is, where do you fit in? Where and what is your role in the surrounding people at the birth of Jesus Christ, as we remember Christmas and we remember the birth of Jesus Christ? Not just all about reindeers and snow and jingle bells. It's far more than that. And so my question is, where do you fit in? What is your role in the surrounding folk that gather around Jesus Christ? God is interested in that, and He's inviting you to find your place at the place of Jesus Christ, where you make yourself available and you're saying, here I am, whether somebody or nobody, doesn't really matter, but here I am, because no one's left out, everyone's included, to have that invitation, and find your place at the place of Jesus Christ, where you come to give Him your gifts. And the greatest gift you can give Him is say, God, here's my heart. You've given me life. You've given me children, a wife, a business, influence, or I have very little. I have a roof over my head, but that's about it. That's okay. God is able to come in, and whether much or little, He can change your life as the gift He brought to mankind. A gift that is so significant, it's changed the world forever. Invite that change into your heart today.